Welcome to Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas. Thanks for being with us. Make sure that you go to our YouTube channel. Just search Kent Hance, the best storyteller in Texas. Also, go back through our past episodes for content and check in every day, because every day we're posting a short little story for you. And also on Fridays, we replay a past episode. So thanks for being here. We appreciate it. Make sure you hit that follow button. Chancellor Hance, you see anything in the news this week you want to talk about?
Well, there was a lot in the news. I go back, my saying of the day is Yogi Berra said it's not over till it's over. And that kind of brings you around to the Trump trial. Mm-hmm. And everybody, that's all they were talking about Thursday and Friday. And that you got everybody's opinion whether you wanted it or not.
That's true.
You know, everybody has an opinion. There's certain things that come along in politics and in government that everyone will have an opinion on.
Whether they know anything about it or not.
They don't have to know anything.
Right.
You know, and some of the experts on TV on both sides appeared to me not to be very knowledgeable. And a lot happened on the Trump case. The headlines, you could tell me the headlines and let me guess where it was, and I could pretty well guess. With CNN and the national media, the CBS, ABC, and the convicted felon and hush money and all the things you'd know, and you didn't see anything like that on Fox. So they all had headlines that kind of agree with how they follow stories. And it was an unusual case. I will always say this, where you sue or where you get sued is usually one of the most important, if not the most important, part of the case. If that case had been filed in Midland or Lubbock or Lufkin or Nacogdoches, do you think it would have had different results? Absolutely. If they'd picked a judge that was a Trump contributor, you know, would that have been an issue? Yeah, it'd have been an issue. And so it's very controversial. And this is not over, and it'd be like Yogi Berra would say, it's not over till it's over. The Judge Marchand, Juan Marchand, he was an activist judge in the trial. He is a contributor to Biden, a small contributor, but still a contributor. And if you're going to be a judge, I think it's best you not give in campaigns. But a lot of people disagree with that. They think that if you're trying to get moved up to the federal court, maybe it'd help you in the campaign to give.
Was the judge in this case handpicked? Wasn't it supposed to be random?
Picked. Yeah, it's supposed to be random, but he was handpicked. And there was a reason for that, and I think it was pretty obvious. His daughter runs campaigns for Democrats. So he's a real activist, and it showed. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was not a sterling case of where the judge was just, trying to do everything he could be fair. I think one of the funniest things he did is that he got on to the Trump's lawyers for objecting too much at the first of the trial. And then when Stormy Daniels testified and they got into details about sex and things like that, he got on for not objecting. So, when the judge is getting on to you about objecting and not objecting, I tried a case one time, this has been 40 years ago, in Dalhart, Texas. And the judge they had window air conditioners. And it dawned on me that every time I spoke or I was going, he turned the air conditioners on. And when the other side was, he turned the air conditioners off, And so I had to yell, I had to really be loud. The jury caught on. The judge told me I didn't have to yell so loud. And I said, well, you turn the air conditioners on when I talk, and you turn them off when I don't. Wasn't much he could say about that. And jury figured it out. Instructions to the jury, the instructions were long. And something New York has, and people were complaining about it, but they have it in all cases. They don't give the instructions to the jury. They read them to them, and that's the reason they want it read to them again. They read it to them, but they don't send them in with the instructions. In Texas, the judge's instructions, jury instructions, they go in, and you make a decision, but because you can sit there and read them and see. but in New York, you have to go out and they read it to you again. Bragg, the district attorney, he ran in 2021, and he got 34% of the votes. Somebody else got 32%, and they don't have runoffs in New York. Mm-hmm. So if you get the most votes, there was one case where they got 21 or 22 votes in a DA's race in New York, and then they got to be the DA. It's a Democratic area, and they happened to get a few more votes out. And I like it where you've got to, if you don't get 50 plus one, you don't win. That way you have to say that at least a majority of your own party voted for you. Mm-hmm. And I think New Mexico is like New York. They do not have runoffs. It's just whoever gets the most votes in the primary, that they get the nomination. But Bragg, as district attorney, 60% of all cases that are felonies are downgraded to misdemeanors.
Oh.
60%.
This went the other way.
And this is the only one that went the other way. So it has 60% going one way and 1% going the other way.
And I think this is something that confuses the public, me included in this. The process in which he had to tie another crime to a misdemeanor in order to make it a felony. Did I say that right?
Yeah. He had two misdemeanors tied and said these make a felony. The statute of limitations run on the felony, and so they had some problems with that. Keep in mind the Department of Justice refused this case. They wouldn't take the case. The Federal Election Commission didn't take the case. But Bragg, he had to, because that was his whole campaign. I'll get Trump if you'll vote. He should have been, most people run for district attorney say, I'll get crime. I'll try to stop burglaries. I'll try to stop murders, rather than I'm going after old so-and-so. Mm-hmm. And, but that prevailed in New York. And so it's a little different.
Did you feel that President Trump had any chance at all of winning this case? From the day one, could you have said he's never going to win this? He may get a hung jury, but not going to win.
I didn't even think he'd get a hung jury.
Really?
It was
cards against him.
They're just not going to lose a case like that. And if the judge is a contributor to Trump's opponent, how fair is he going to be? And now I know some Democrats say, "Oh, he was great. He was great. He was very fair and everything like that," but he wasn't. And I think that if he could give Trump the death penalty on July the 11th, he probably would. Hopefully not. But he doesn't like him, and it's obvious, and Trump doesn't like him, and it's obvious. And I would think if he can give him some jail time, which he can. I think he'll do that unless someone in the Democratic Party tell him, "Hey, we don't want to make him too much of a martyr. Don't do that yet." But then the appellate decisions will be made. And see, I don't think that necessarily everybody's saying, "Well, it'll be turned over on appeal." It may, but you've got the same method. You're selecting judges in a state that is very left. And so I don't see that he's got any cinch on appeal. Now, he might be able to get into the Supreme Court, and then he'd have a better chance. And that, I think this is going to be a deal, and this is what I hate about it the most. This is going to be a deal where whoever's in power is going to try to get to the other side and get them indicted. And if I was a young man or young woman and looking at running, I'd really have to think that over because they've weaponized the court system, and that's a good possibility you're going to get caught up in it.
Going back to just a minute ago when you said the thing that you hate the most about this, are you afraid that going forward in American politics that this could turn into the party in power just starts indicting the other people, or vice versa?
I think there's a strong possibility of that, and that's not good.
No,
it's not good. But we'll see. And if you can get your opponent locked up, you got a better chance. I mean, that's kind of the new theme that's going to be floating out there. The hardcore Trump people are not going to change, and the hardcore Democrats are not going to change. They're not going to change how they think or how they vote about it. There'll be some independents that may assess it and make a change one way or the other. And a lot of people are making predictions on that. It's a long time until November the 5th. And so you don't know what all is going to happen.
Right.
And the public, sometimes they follow it closer than the press thinks that they do. And sometimes they stop and they really pay attention. I think they did that in the Jimmy Carter race about some of the decisions he had made, and they turned on him, and everybody had been writing that Reagan was just an actor and there wasn't any substance to him and stuff like that. And he just stayed focused and won. I've got to say this about Donald Trump. President Trump, I've never seen anyone in politics that has so much thrown at him and stays focused on what they're trying to do. You look at impeachment, and he stayed focused on lowering taxes, or moving the embassy to Jerusalem, or whatever his issue. He just stayed focused on it. And most people that have problems that get that tough in politics, that they're willing to work out some kind of agreement. I'll withdraw if you'll withdraw all the cases and everything. Not him. Boy, I mean, he has stayed focused, and his personality is such that he's not gonna bend one way or the other. But I've been amazed that he could do that.
A little bit ago, you mentioned the Supreme Court. This is something that the Supreme Court would probably like to stay away from because of its political nature. So what are the odds of that? If you had to say it's 50-50 that it'll go to the Supreme Court, I mean.
It's hard to say. It depends on how much abuse they think was rendered in that decision, and also about the time element. I would think they'd probably wait until you have an appellate process being worked on.
That's going to take a while.
Yeah, that'll be past the election. But in the meantime, when Biden talks about Trump, he's going to say the convicted felon.
And so's the media.
Media's that's all they're going to say, and I've watched it the last few days. That's exactly their and so I mean they're trying to influence voters, and so it'll be interesting to see what happens. Alan Dershowitz said that the lawyers for Trump did not object to a lot of the things that happened.
And that's important because on appeal, if it wasn't objected,
you
can't object in the appeal.
If you didn't object. Now, the reason you saw two lawyers there, Blanche was one, and the other guy, I never did figure out who his name was. His bald-headed guy, and he just sat there. He didn't smile, didn't frown. And I figured he was an appellate lawyer. But I was surprised that he didn't jump up and object. And he let his partner do that. And he may have just told him, okay, you need to object to that or whatever. But in high-profile cases where you've got somebody that's got the money, they'll try have someone to try the case and someone to be there to object to make sure that there's no mistakes made.
Interesting.
Yeah, and if you see some homeless person, they're not going to have an appellate lawyer there with them.
Right.
I mean they're not going to be able to do that. Trump, I'm just amazed that he just stays focused, just keeps on going. How many presidents have been impeached a couple of times, been indicted, and 3 indictments? I don't know. Supposedly the easiest case is the one in Washington, and the one case where that Trump might have a chance of winning is in Florida, and the makeup of the jury, may be more to his liking or at least even-handed.
How do you think they'll fundraise off of this decision?
Well, they did that first day. Supposedly they raised $38 million, and they sent out an email to everyone I've got on their list. And any time you get on someone's list as a contributor or something, you're going to get a lot of emails asking you to give and text messages. And so they asked, and that supposedly that first day they got $38 million, and that's a pretty good day's work.
Yeah, that sure is.
And but they're not going to shake the hardcore Trump people. They're not going to come off.
No.
They're not going to fall by the wayside, and he knows that, and he has a lot of those supporters.
I think you said it last week. In today's day and time, nothing bothers the voters anymore.
I did say it last week. It doesn't. I think that they're not shocked.
Right.
No matter what you say, they're not shocked. It's not like they go to the coffee shop and say, "Can you believe that?"
Mm-hmm.
They just, and I'm not talking about just this election, presidential election. I'm talking about, other elections that voters just can't shock them anymore.
Yeah.
This was a case that the action took place in 2016. Now, if this was a heinous crime or something, would you wait till 2024 to bring the case? Mm-hmm. I filed a motion one time in a criminal case where a guy got indicted. It was a sealed indictment, and they didn't open it for 4 years. And I filed a motion to right to a speedy arrest. If you're going to be charged with something, they need to inform you quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And that I thought maybe it'd be in the front of the Supreme Court, and I'd get my name on a big case or something. But the guy ran out of money, and so he later worked something out. One couple of last things. The judge said that in those misdemeanors and everything, they didn't have to agree on all of them, just a majority on. And I think the Supreme Court, they've been adamant on criminal cases that it has to be unanimous.
Mm-hmm.
It comes down to this: is Trump to the independent voters going to seem better, or is 4 more years of Biden going to be seen better? And so, that's what they're really going to be selling.
That's what it
Both
always
sides.
That's what it always comes down to. Are you better off now than you were then? Right.
Look, here's one thing I want all the people to listen to, no matter whose side you're on. The one place is the immunity case. They've heard arguments, Supreme Court, and no one's made a decision. But just stop and think. Trump wants to win that case. But who else wants to win that case? Biden and Clinton, Bush, and everybody that's ever been president. Mm-hmm. Because if you go back and say, now look, we've got to figure out some way to indict this guy that was president at one time. I just ventured to say you can find something wrong someplace. And so I think on the immunity case that you don't hear anybody on the Democrat side saying, we hope he loses that case. They're quietly.
So this would provide immunity to presidents and past presidents,
right,
from any type of indictment or trial or crime?
Depend on what the final ruling is,
mm-hmm.
but it definitely could. And so you don't hear a lot of talk about that.
Right.
Leave that alone. There's a new study, and the U-Haul people and people like that have to get involved in these studies. What 5 states do people not want to leave? It was Texas, North Carolina, Georgia, California, and Utah. Mm-hmm. And I think for different reasons. They probably like their government pretty well in Texas, and the economy's booming. And the same in Georgia. Atlanta's always booming. And in North Carolina. Those are good growth states. You're going to make money. I had a law professor when I was in law school said, "Go where money's changing hands. You'll get your share of it. Don't go to a dying economy." go to a good economy. In California, their weather's so good. There's a lot of people out there that are leaving because of business reasons, but they don't really like to, and the income tax out there is pretty high. But the weather is so good. You don't have really, really hot weather or really, really cold weather.
Yeah, and the agriculture there, too, is great.
It is.
Pretty much anything will grow in California.
Hey, if you get it the water, San Joaquin Valley, it's going to grow. You just got to make – and they've had pretty good rains and a lot of snow the last 2 years. And Utah is somewhat like – they have pretty conservative government, but they also have, good weather. And you're close to skiing in case you like to snow ski.
I've never been to Utah, but I've heard it's gorgeous.
Well, it is. It's a beautiful state.
Someday I want to go visit.
And they, this will be for people that are Houston, Baylor, TCU, and Texas Tech fans. They're going to get a chance to go to University of Utah to see some games in Brigham Young, and so they'll see some of Utah in the future. But getting back to Yogi, says it's not over till it's over. There's going to be a lot of talk and a lot of carrying on about what was right and what's not right, and it's a long way till the election. A week can be a lifetime in politics. Always remember that. It just things happen and happen so fast and it moves fast. Thanks for listening. And just like Yoga said, it's not over till it's over.